Here's to culture. Welcome back. You're watching our special coverage on the Prime Minister's visit to Japan. The India-Japan Scaling New Heights is the name of our program. Here's a reminder of our top stories. I'm Mark Lynn, and with me is Gautam Roy.
Thanks, Mark. Well, Prime Minister Modi and Japan PM Shigeru Ishiba visit Tokyo Electron factory, a semicon facility in the Miyagi prefecture. This is one of the world's leading semiconductor equipment manufacturing firms.
Trump's trade strategy is deemed illegal by a U.S. appeals court. They've allowed the tariffs until October, anticipating the U.S. Supreme Court appeal. And the U.S. President has dubbed this order as incorrect. He asserts the levies remain in effect.
Indonesia protests blaze kills 3 as anger erupts over the death of a motorcycle taxi driver hit by a police vehicle.
And in sports, India's Satvik and Chirag reached the men's doubles semi-finals of the Badminton World Championship in Paris. PV Sindhu loses in the quarterfinals.
All right, so we have seen action taking place today on day 2, the meeting with the governors of different Japanese prefectures that took place in Tokyo. Then the Prime Minister riding along with his Japanese counterpart, Prime Minister Ishiba, to Sendai in a bullet train, and then of course that visit to that semiconductor plant, Mark, that in itself tells the tales in which direction are India and Japan ties headed.
Indeed, it tells us the tale that technology and economic focus remains pretty much the central point, actually, to a large extent. And we have been talking a lot about the geopolitics and the geoeconomics surrounding this relationship and the times that we live in. And to tell us more about that, we continue to have with us Professor Shrabani Roy Chowdhury, Professor at the School of International Studies, JNU. Specialization in Japan. So let's go back to the geopolitics, and we see that everything has changed since the US President Trump came out with his tariff policy, which the US appeals court says is illegal, but that's a different point. But the issue is that all countries are not only looking for diversification, but they're looking for realignment. Would you see the India-Japan relationship, strengthening also because of that?
Let's step back a little. When the crisis happened with respect to Ukraine crisis, even then, in spite of the fact that we took a position of strategic autonomy, and we must remember at that point of time, Kishida was one of the first head of states who had gone forward to say that this was not appropriate on Russia's part. And subsequently, we had aligned differently. Yet, at that point of time, it was very well understood why we took a thing of strategic autonomy. And Kishida's visit in 2022 only, made us our country's position very clear. And if at that point of time, Kishida came up with his new free and open Indo-Pacific document, which was revealed in India in ICWA event, which only gave us a very good standing that we are back in track. We've had issues of not having had a prime ministerial visit in the meantime, because it's supposed to be an annual visit, which was delayed. But current visit, on the 15th visit, I think this sort of again put the whole thing back on track. What was very important is in 2015, we had a Vision 2025, and currently we've come up with another a decade vision. And if you look at what has been inked in 2025, 2015 as 2025 vision to this vision, there's been nice connections I could see, not only with respect to environmental cooperation, smart cities, and strengthening economic cooperation, and out there infrastructure connectivity. Here we've taken it forward because infrastructure connectivity has the digital component now, which is a very important part. We have the semiconductor coming in, which is a very critical, as you just now said, Mark, that it is something that is binding the entire region and re-looking at how to come together and realign ourselves. And I think these are the reasons why we will realign ourselves better. India is talking on the behalf of Global South, and environmental cooperation is critical. But environment cooperation means sustainable development in economic front. So it connects up very well. And Japan is forefront even in sustainable development. Their SDG goals in Society 6.0 is well documented. Already they have various prefectures which are strong on sustainable development.
And they're living up to their climate commitments like India.
Yeah. And therefore, I think now with this prefectural level engagements that our states would have, they will be faster learning process rather than, policy making at the national level, then going on to the state level, imbibing them. It will now be a free flow exchange of information initially and knowledge, which will therefore lead to, each of the states also making course corrections in how they want to do their economic development, keeping the sustainable development model.
But to your mind, in terms of what's happened today as well as yesterday, what do you think are the most game-changing aspects of how this relationship between India and Japan is being taken to the next level? Is it about the level of investments? Is it about the partnership that is developing in semiconductors and other frontier technologies? Is it defense or other issues that we just mentioned, sustainable development?
Japan and economic cooperations go hand in hand. In economic cooperations, we are now having larger thing of technology being talked about, but this time we've talked about also economic security. So I think, originating from economic cooperation is economic security aspect, which has become a new cause of worry for us. This security aspects has both strategic component as well as economic component, and which technology has to be forerunner because it's a technological game change which has actually led to these. So it's really a strong game changing aspect in these fields. I personally feel what is really the visionary part of it is the people, that you're talking about 5 lakh people in which 50 is semi-skilled and skilled. If 50,000 is semi-skilled and skilled talent movement, what is the rest, because that's a large number. Are we looking at tourism? Are we looking at using it for short-term exchange programs at university level, school levels? This is something that has to be fleshed out. Yeah, that has to be fleshed out, and I'm keenly going to observe that part of it because that will essentially mean, as I talked about earlier, that looking at Japan as an alternative educational hub would then only originate.
And that is
in
what
India.
will probably bring the societies together even closer than it has never happened earlier.
Yeah, of course, that is no doubt about it. If it's a known fact that people-to-people connectivity is ultimately which, how much ever you have policies, if you have a good people-to-people connectivity, then everything free flows within 2 countries, whether it is neighboring states or whether it is distantly positioned states like Japan and India.
Let's talk about the leadership as well. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has always, looked at Japan, even when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. And we did talk a little earlier about prefectures and states. So, I mean, Prime Minister Modi's interest in Japan started when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. In this context, how do you see the leadership of Prime Minister, in driving this relationship forward as well? Because it was not only with Shinzo Abe, he continued with Kishida, with Suga earlier, and now with Ishiba.
See, one thing I think should be understood about India-Japan relationship is, while leadership changed, the momentum more or less was sailing well. Abe and Modi definitely had a charismatic leadership, and both of them were probably individually very committed to this relationship in a way that it really trajectorily changed. We always talk about this period as a game-changing period because it became a strategic partnership, then it became a global partnership, strategic global partnership. So it was a trajectory changed in this period. It started with Manmohan Singh Abe and then Abe Modi, because Abe was committed to it. Then, there was this shift, and of course the COVID unfortunately was a big reason why Suga period is almost unknown. But one must remember that even during...
He went and called on Prime Minister Modi in Tokyo as well,
Yes.
apart from another former Prime Minister, and sadly we don't have Prime Minister Abe anymore with us.
Yeah. But vaccine is another place, I think, where we made a lot of goodwill among most of the regional in this region as because of vaccine maitri, and I think Japan understood that we are way ahead of them in some aspects. So right now, I think we are in a place where probably in especially digital, I feel that there would be places where Japan has a lot of learning to do from us. So those would be the nice place, for not always we being on the receiving end of everything Japan is giving us. We would also be in a position to give Japan something at this point.
Even in the field of biotechnology and pharmaceuticals, perhaps?
Yeah, I think pharmaceutical, it is basically the low, like we can price our generic drugs very at a low cost. So therefore, we would become a good option. But I think high-end technology is again going to be something that we will look forward from Japan, because Japan, especially in field of cancer and all, I believe they're very, very advanced right now with diagnostics, and that is what we would also be looking at in the healthcare.
But society-wise, do you think Japan is largely conservative, and hence they take long to make decisions with regard to many of these issues which might be looked at from an ethical point of view? And perhaps, I mean, India is moving much faster. You're talking about digital. Maybe they're taking time to, implement things like UPI. They're worried about the consequences.
See, there are two things in it. One is, of course, they're much more detailing. They take time to come to a decision making. Their political systems decision making is a time-consuming stuff. But the other part is, I felt very strongly citizens. As it's an aging society, there's inherent fear. If you look at it, even savings in Japan mainly go to postal saving. That's why they are able to use it for the ODA to rest of the world, because it's a government saving. People, essentially citizens don't engage much in stock markets and all that. There is, but not the kind that you would expect in a very advanced. They are not at all credit-oriented thing. They do not live on credit. They prefer to live. So there is this conservatism as far as money goes.
Getting credit is fairly easy there. You get it on very...
Of course.
Because nobody's taking it, so naturally
no one
it has
is
to come
taking
down.
it. The saving, they went up to giving if you saved, you didn't even get
negative.
money for
your
negative.
Money from the banks.
Exactly. So effectively, all that has been tried out, but people are very conservative with respect to their, and they like to be, living in thrift.
Within their means.
Yeah, within their means, in thrift, So effectively, it leads to a kind of a situation, especially with older people, where the needs itself becomes less. Desire is hardly there.
So that's the reason why the economy is stagnant. There's no consumption.
Exactly. The consumption
is driven by technological changes mostly now, perhaps in every society.
Yeah, but you see, if you look at it, a younger population, look at India, younger population, you throw any new item into the market, it gets slapped up, at least for some time. In Japan, when you have an older generation who are not so keen on technological changes, who are quite contented in what they are having.
Not so keen to buy the latest iPhone.
Yeah, they don't, and therefore, today in Japan, there is technology is moving towards creating old people's lifestyles better. So that is where, in fact, their infrastructure is also now looking at how to make it easy for older people to move around, etc., which is, amazing small changes, but it always, see, Japan, after all, across the country, it has options for blind people that I don't remember, they call it something. The tiling is done in such a way the blind people can move with this, feelers, stick feelers, which will, they can navigate the entire country. So they're looking at similar options for older people, making it skid-free, making it, accessible, because frankly speaking, subway system of Japan in many of the Japanese stations require more options of reaching below rather than only the staircases, because stairs are always considered to be the most difficult navigation for older people. So
even escalators.
Escalators are also not good, so you need lifts. And these are the options that they're now looking at, and they will do it. I'm very sure about that.
Indeed. We look also at, let's put it into a larger context, a bigger picture, when we look at multipolarity that's coming out in Asia, multipolarity in the world as well. does this relationship also, help India's own strategic autonomy to a large extent?
I definitely think that this relationship anchors India to position itself as, regional player much better. And Japan and India have often in various multilateral forums worked together in pushing things. RCEP, one story that we were discussing, it was very unfortunate that we've stepped out of it for reasons which later felt very logical. But at one point of time, Japan and India had worked together basically to counter China in that place. And Japan was quite heartbroken when we walked out of it, because they really thought that India would be always in support of Japan. And since we were not going to CPTPP, because we do not have the withhold to reach the standards of CPTPP, so this was one place that Japan felt we would work together. But if you look at it, even in the United Nations, both of us have worked together in pushing for agendas in environment, agendas in healthcare, agendas of the African countries. At various points of time, we worked together. So in multipolar situation, I think Japan and India's commitment to each other, especially these 2 days event that has happened, I think has showcased this world that these two nations mean business in keeping this region free, fair and open.
And you talked about Japan and India being helped in positioning itself as a regional player. Do you think this relationship also helps India position itself as a leader of the global south?
India has always committed itself to be showcasing the global south, and if you look at it in we've also got invites to go in for G7 conference meetings, and there we have brought in what are the issues. What is also very important to understand is some of the concerns of global south, especially environmental concerns of global south, is keen concern of Japan also, because global south has sizable island countries. Japan itself is an island country. It is an earthquake prone zone. So in many ways, not many of these are easily relatable to Japan. So Japan engages with India to actually look at promoting global south in these matters. And this what we are now talking about, taking the bilateralship beyond. I think these are the places, disaster management, we've talked about this time in our joint framework, they've talked about the Sendai disaster framework, which is basically a kind of a document which tells you what to do with respect to earthquake. And I think that is exactly what would be a concern of many of the global south. And the tie card that Japan has had with, which is basically a Tokyo Africa platform, which they had a meeting in Yokohama, that also gave a long list of things which are very, very strongly looking at making Africa a much more resilient economies, where they would be looking at promoting economic cooperation through sustainable development, not make mistakes that has happened in the past with Africa. And I think Africa today has, many of these countries have understood that Chinese investments come at a cost. And at this point of time, India, Japan, even in the past, Japan has looked upon because India has a strong diaspora out there, to help Japan to understand how to work and thing. We had the Asia-Africa Growth Corridor. I think those all are going to come back this time. Though I thought there would be mention of Africa in the joint statement, which it isn't there this time. But having seen TICAD and having seen our strong relationship, we ourselves are engaging strongly in African economies. I think we will see more cooperation out in that front also.
Right. And do you see this partnership? In fact, we are being told that right now Prime Minister Modi has completed that leg of his visit to Japan, and now he's on to his next destination. Mark, you want to tell the viewers about that? Because this was always supposed to be a two-nation visit.
Indeed, the Prime Minister is heading to Tianjin in China for the SCO summit, and our focus also will change towards that. It is a major summit. We know that the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, is going to be there. Of course, the President of China, Xi Jinping, is there. So it is a significant opportunity for the RIC countries, in a sense, to re-establish their relationship in the new global environment.
Yes, we will see a lot of engagements, bilateral engagements on the side as well. We already know that Prime Minister will be having a bilateral engagement with both President Xi as well as President Putin on 2 separate days. But apart from that, there's a scope for a lot of other meetings to take place with leaders of Central Asian countries, who all are a part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which is essentially supposed to be a security grouping, but it seems to be widening its ambit, just like some other groupings that have come about.
Quad is also.
Yes, in the last couple of decades.
Indeed. If we look at what's coming next, ma'am, how would you look at, looking at this visit of the Prime Minister in Japan, and now is there a context to it from Japan to China?
Very difficult to say because actually if you look at how it started with Prime Minister is going to visit China. First round we got is that he's visiting China. It's only later that his visit to Japan was confirmed. So I cannot say what is the significance, but I feel what has been said in the media very strongly is that it is going first visiting a friend and then visiting.
But would you showcase that it's a showcase for India's strategic autonomy as well, that you have Japan and Prime Minister visiting there, a bilateral visit, annual summit taking place after a certain gap, and then to China, which, I mean, Japan and China don't really see eye to eye much, but still it's something that's not stood in the way in any way for either of them, for Prime Minister Modi to come calling.
Yeah, definitely. We can read it like this, that we've taken away, and both the countries have accepted that we will do this. Our Prime Minister would go to both the countries in one go rather than doing 2 trips. The other thing that I feel probably would have been is, I'm sure there was some amount of talk with respect to the terrorist activities that we've been facing, and repeatedly in many of our joint statements between India and Japan, we have stated that how both of us condemn the whole act of terrorism, and he's going to SCO where the terrorism is a major area of concern. So I think in many ways probably this sort of will give us a standing in the international order of knowing that we are much more independent in our decision making process.
Indeed, and well, I mean, we can always also say that China, Japan and India are really the 3 major powers of Asia, isn't it?
Yeah,
and this is being seen as the Asian century. So in that context, also a re-establishment that these powers in a multipolar world, there's enough room for all of us to continue to grow. Definitely,
and I'm sure while our Prime Minister would be engaging, because they are going to have sessions with each of the leaders out there, we might also see some kind of cooperations coming up. One doesn't know, because especially with how I think US stand right now and Trump's tariff thing, everyone is recalculating, as you, Mark, had said. All of us are recalculating how we can work and find convergences. So I think convergences, any kind of communication and talking among leaders opens door for convergences. Okay.
I'm being told that we're joined now by former senior diplomat Ambassador C. Rajshekhar as well. Good afternoon to you, Ambassador Rajshekhar. You're joining us at a time when Prime Minister Modi is left or is leaving Japan for his next destination in Tianjin, China. And we were trying to see how that juxtaposition works in terms of India's own global positioning in the context of how things have gone so well in Japan and the kind of expectations that are there of progress in relations with not just China, with other multiple participants in that SCO meeting as well when he reaches Tianjin.
Yes, you have rightly captured that the visit went off smoothly, and it's a very successful landmark visit. This is the 8th visit of Honorable Prime Minister to Japan in a series of 15th annual summit. The timing is very significant. I heard you discussing that. Say we are all familiar with what's happening between India and US. So I have been there in Tokyo twice. I was posted in our embassy and also as director East Asia. I have many friends among Japanese diplomats. We all know that Japan is a very close, tight ally of US. So I asked them, so is it any simple because you are well placed in good shape with US? They used to say informally that no, say we are most uncertain because we never know when the American policy will change and leave us into a great uncertainty. So Japan understands presently with Mr. Trump being in the White House that we're all at the receiving end, that we all need to stick together. So this is what is the signal for the hurriedly arranged summit. The timing has been rather hurriedly scheduled on the way to Tianjin for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. But it's a testimony that Honorable Prime Minister is held in very high esteem, that the red carpet has been rolled out, and we have a very fruitful visit to show for yesterday and today, Prime Minister's visit to Japan.
Yes, we've been putting out that list of outcomes. There are 21 items in that list. I don't remember when was the last time I saw such a long list of outcomes from any bilateral visit of Prime Minister Modi, but we've had very successful ones in the past as well. But this one, how would you rank it, Ambassador Rajshekhar, in terms of, on a scale of 1 to 10, would it go beyond 10 as well?
In fact, our Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri has done that thing, giving the gist to the most important one. Before I come to that, the central and simple signal that from Tokyo, India and Japan are sending out to the world, especially US, loud and clear, is that India, civilizational India, is surrounded by goodwill and we have friends. What is most important, striking, is that Japan, which is a close, tight, strong ally of Japan, of US, is standing firmly with us, which is a very useful signal at this point of time. Also about Japan, I may recall a bit of history. Japan's foreign policy is very simple. It's to follow the American foreign policy. They are very lock in step with the American foreign policy. Such Japan showing goodwill for India at this time is a very nuanced diplomatic signal that will not be lost in the capitals around the world, beginning with Washington, D.C. About the important MOUs you asked me, Foreign Secretary has listed 4 among those many MOUs. Those MOUs are also to signal that so much is happening because India is not a dead economy, but India is a vibrant economy. Demography is destiny. It's all happening place is India with 1.4, the largest, most populous nation, as Prime Minister put it. Demography, democracy, demand. These 3 propel prosperity and growth. So that is the one. So coming to your specific question, Foreign Secretary has listed 4 most important MOUs. One is space technology. While we are seeking technology from the technology powerhouse that is Japan, India is also in a position to offer, to share space technology given the stellar success of ISRO. So ISRO and JAXA, the Japanese counterpart of Indian Space Research Organization, they have signed an MOU to collaborate, especially on Chandrayaan-5. So this is one. And another important one is digital cooperation 2.0, because Indian digital accomplishments have been attracting attention from around the world. Third one is the collaboration critical minerals. And the last one is joint crediting mechanism. So these are but 4 of the several MOUs signed, showing that Japan and many others, including allies of US, are very keen to collaborate with India because India is vibrant.
Ambassador Rajshekhar, so what you have been saying in both your answers is that Japan, being a close ally of the US, is now looking separately, it's recalibrating. But, it was always seen that Japan was was close not only to the US, but is has had good relations with the West, even though it is very much a country of the East. Do you feel that perhaps this is now a development that is that we are looking at the East re-emerging or Asia is re-emerging stronger in the global politics as opposed to the West?
Simply put, Japan is the most westernized Asian country. It is part of G7, most industrialized society, and Japan has very quickly worked to join the ranks of the developed West and OECD. Having said that, 21st century, all of us know, is emerging as Asian century, but it need not be binary, this or that. Say our mission shall be to be friends with the world, with Japan, with neighbors, with big powers, with US, with Russia. So it is not a binary zero-sum game, but collaboration with Japan, as Prime Minister has rightly put. Japan is a technology powerhouse and India is a talent powerhouse. Together we can create a revolution and scale up prosperity for all.
What kind of a message do you think the kind of meetings that the Prime Minister has had, the kind of bilateral meeting with Prime Minister Ishiba has had, what kind of a message will that convey to where Prime Minister himself is headed now in Tianjin? Because one is the kind of message that has come across where responding to security challenges is concerned, terrorism included, cross-border terrorism clearly spelled out there as well. And apart from that, the message itself to both China and Russia, two bilateral meetings that have already been announced, and there might be other bilaterals as well.
As our scriptures say, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, from the known to the unknown, from friends to not so friends. So it's always useful to be reassured to renew goodwill with a major power in Asia, Japan, while walking into Tianjin. Of course, Russia is also a friend. With China, we had a little complicated relations, especially in the last 5 years. But of course, beginning with this calendar year, relations have been warming up, and there is increased signaling on the part of both China and India to strengthen and expand our collaboration. With Tianjin summit of SCO will further offer an opportunity. As I said, the signal is simple that India has the treasure of civilizational heritage and the goodwill of one and all, including major powers like Japan.
Ambassador Roy Chaudhary, how would you look at Japan, moving away from the West in a sense? Is that a good reading of the subject?
I think, since the end of Cold War, Japan has at various points of time, that's how we came into their focus also. They have moved towards creating multipolarity. Initially, of course, they looked at China, again, that time it was market and close to the country, and then slowly over a period of time, especially after Cold War, I think Japan realized that Japan needs to have more friends, and we were a very good option because we don't have any historical baggage, civilizational linkages is there. At various points of time, we have helped Japan, like initially for their economic development in 1950s, we have given them iron, exported iron to them. Similarly, in 1993, in our balance of payment crisis, it was Japan which bailed us out at that point of time. So those things matter. Of course, nuclear issues have always been an area of contentions, and that is quite understandable. But even there, if considering we did not sign the non-proliferation treaty, we still went ahead and becoming a strategic partnership, which tells a lot about what this relationship is. What is, I think what has happened, and especially with, you did have even at Obama's time, a little diversion of USA from Japan's alliance system to Trump's past leadership, when he had talked about these countries which are alliance should take more responsibilities, and therefore Japan looking at increasing their defense spending to 2% of the GDP. All this is happening at one end. But Japan over time has understood that the Indo-Pacific needs to be kept free, fair, both with respect to security, with respect to navigation, because ultimately for Japan, resources travel through this place. And that is why it spread out its wings to create friendships, and that is where a country like us, which has got, as has been said, democracy demand and demographic advantage, we are the natural choice, and there is no reason stopping these two countries to come together.
Certainly. One particular aspect of the relationship that India and Japan have, and we've not had the opportunity to talk about it much, is the fate of the Quad. Ambassador C. Rajshekhar, if you could talk about that as well, because of the kind of, again, bilateral meetings that these two leaders have had, what sort of a message does it send about the future of the Quad, which is somewhat in question again because of Donald Trump's return to the White House?
Sure. Before I come to Quad, may I continue with what ma'am has said, that if you go back to 1970s, when US started improving relations with China, especially economic collaboration and also shifting manufacturing from US, which also followed, West also followed to China. Japan also did not want to miss out on that opportunity. So Japan used to invest and had excellent, very strong economic partnership with China. So when I reached as a young diplomat first time, so it used to be very thick. Japanese are very keen to invest and collaborate, partner with China. So that used to be a little complex, perplexing for me, because China is our big neighbor, and we need Japan to to look at us as close collaborator, not so much as China. So I did a 6 months long research. So I was privileged to be the first South Asian to be invited to do the research at the Japan Institute of International Affairs, which is Japanese Foreign Ministry's think tank, JIA. So my 6 months research took me to reveal that under this 1980s, 70s, 80s, 90s close collaboration economically between Japan and China, hunky-dory, there is a structural problem, conflict between Japan and China. So if you go back in the history of China, only one country, Japan, tried to gobble up the whole of China as a colony. Not any other country. The massacre of Nanking, China will not forget in a hurry. So my conclusion is that, say, in relations, just as in the fortunes of individuals and nations, there are ups and downs. Similarly, in relations between nations, Japan and China also will be ups and downs. Beyond this hunky-dory economic collaboration, a time will come. So exactly now later, so the rifts have come between Japan and China, and as China has emerged as a stronger economically, militarily power, Japanese have been apprehensive increasingly, and also they've been looking around for friends like India, Vietnam, many other countries. So that's how Japan has started warming up, also looking for closer relations. That's what, the last 15 years of annual summits also is in that context. Now, coming specifically to Quad. Quad had a historical significance. China is emerging too rapidly and too menacingly to neighbors near and far. So Quad is meant to strengthen collaboration between like-minded countries, India, Australia, Japan, and US. And this is, as American conservatives say, peace through strength. Here it is peace through collaboration, and not necessarily directed against any particular country, but together, we are formidable deterrent. So that is the purpose of Quad. So suddenly Quad will not disappear, nor its purpose. But of course, there will be contextual calibration because of President Trump's policies when Trump is treating allies not as allies but as adversaries naturally, so there will be some adjustments, need to be made in the prioritization in Quad, so that Japan also is at the receiving end. Japan is not in 50% tariff bracket, but nevertheless, Japanese competitiveness already being a very thin aspect, because Japan is a very high cost economy. So this whatever 15% tariff also is very high on Japanese exports. So Japan very much understands, sympathizes India's position, and naturally India and Japan together can moderate American behavior both towards Quad and also towards economic partnership in the overall strategic scenario developing in Asia, Indo-Pacific region.
Ambassador Rajshekhar, if we look at what SCO stands for, how would you look at it evolving in the current global political, geopolitical scenario? With Russia being a member, Russia, of course, involved in the conflict which has disrupted the world order for some time, and China, which has disrupted the supply chain and the economic order for some time, and now, of course, everything is turned upside down because of the Trump tariff policies. So, I mean, in these contexts, how do you look at SCO emerging from within, from the geopolitical contexts?
SCO has always been important. Actually, what predates it is, RIC, Russia, India, China collaboration, because these three are enormous powers and potentially can drive both prosperity, growth, and also security. So that has been the history. So SCO is important. But only thing is because of certain geopolitical history that one is that, you said Russian invasion of Ukraine, that we do not call it invasion, but, special operations, as President Putin has said. And also India-US very strong collaboration. We from our image notion in our minds, it may have slipped a bit in terms of priority and importance, but it will continue to occupy, and also now it assumes even greater significance. That's the reason that the summit is being approached by the leadership not only of India, but China, Russia, and other countries participating also, that we need to stick together and collaborate for greater prosperity and security.
Right. But do you see the SCO, considering the current challenges, also having a bit of a relook at its agenda? It's primarily remained a security grouping, but now we've seen how the Quad has evolved. Perhaps the SCO also needs to evolve in certain direction, despite the kind of limitations that it's said to have with member countries as diverse as India, Pakistan, or India, China for that matter as well.
Again, it's a notion that, leaders can come together, they can agree that, okay, yesterday we discussed security, today let's expand it to economy and also people-to-people collaboration. Nothing stops. And say these nations, every nation wants peace and development. See, only thing is, it's the job of diplomats, it's the job of statesmen to structure and tailor it, how to go about. We can be optimistic that SCO may break new ground in enhancing the security. The background of geopolitical situation being very favorable, that there may be new avenues of collaboration multilaterally, regionally at SCO.
What is your take on that, Professor Roy Chaudhary? Can SCO also break new ground, like India-Japan ties are breaking new ground?
See, obviously, if India is participating in it, there is an agenda for our participation, and I therefore feel that given the current dynamics of the international community, I'm sure India would be looking at creating some kind of inroads into it, because it is yet another forum in which there is an opportunity for India. And the issue in hand is terrorism, where we are victim of it. We've recently faced it, so I think we have a voice to bring that up front, and it's in a regional basis. So, and it's got two of our regional neighbors, Russia, China, and of course you have the Middle East countries also participating. So it's, I think, a very important one. Yeah. That's okay. We'll have to wait and watch how it works out through the other parties. So I think that's how it will work out for
Ambassador Rajshekhar, coming back to the trip that Prime Minister has just concluded with Japan, to what extent do you think this particular visit has changed or re-energized the SME sector in India, the possibilities of new collaborations, new business opportunities for critical and emerging technologies?
I will point out two things. One is the intent that to invest in India into the order of 10 trillion yen, which is $68 billion, and with the active assistance of Japan. The thrust would be on medium scale enterprises collaboration. What is interesting is, even if you say medium scale, the Japanese medium scale are also almost like our large scale enterprises. And already in the last 2 years, there has been inflow of $13 billion of investment, and Japanese demography I have mentioned earlier, which is both aging and shrinking. As a result, the high cost Japanese economy is losing competitive edge and looking for market to expand. It has the ability, competence, economic strength, and India provides the right complementary match for scaling up and reaping rich dividends. So this largely happens in MSME sector at a time when, because of heightened tariff from the US, Indian MSMEs may take a hit. Japan would be a perfect natural ally to be complementary to enhance collaboration.
There is a forum, of course, that will be put together for the SMEs. But do you think that this action plan of India-Japan human resource exchange could also be something that could feed this enriching of the SMEs on both the sides?
Yes, that's what the Honorable Prime Minister said. While you have technology and capability, we have resources, which is essentially human resources and also opportunity to scale up. Already we have signed in several areas for Indian manpower to participate in Japanese economy, and those numbers are increasing. I think we have identified initially about 20 areas where Indian manpower is welcome in Japan, and we are increasingly training Indian human resources in Japanese language so that they can be useful to contribute to Japanese economy.
Ambassador Roy Chaudhary, when we look at the goals in terms of environment and sustainability, Japan is looking at 2050 at net zero, and we of course are 2070. But Japan, being a huge manufacturer of automobiles, is obviously going to be moving in that direction to try, when it's just not EVs, it's also green energy, green hydrogen, green ammonia, all this sort of things. To what extent can we also scale up and this collaboration work in that direction?
See, the mention of sustainable development is splattered across the joint statement, whether it is in economic security aspect, in environment, So, if it is sustainable development, green technology with respect to renewable energy, etc., would be part of the story. And if Japan has technology, what is probably where we would plug in is if we can use the technology and do it at a cost effectively, because we have large labor, etc. So if that kind of a combination is worked out with green I remember the hydrogen technology, they were very keen to be here because they need a lot of land, and that is possible in our country. So they were looking at it. But I think the hydrogen story has taken a little bit of a backseat at the currently. I don't know, technologically it seems to have some issues, which is why it's
There's
in
the biofuel story as well,
Yeah.
which can perhaps step in.
step in, and so there is lots, like I think today we are looking at it very, we're calling it disruptive technology things. It's
Yes.
at every technology end there are certain changes that is moving the whole technology into a different trajectory. So it's a little bit of a watch and wait kind of a situation, and if there are
I mean, the kind of progress
opportunities.
Japan is making, Japanese companies are making on hybrids.
Yeah.
They're saying hybrids might even outpace EVs at some
That's
point.
the thing that the Japanese are coming up with, but I don't know as far as automobiles go. If you look at the current technological trend, it is more on the EVs than on the hybrids. So one really doesn't know what will finally take over. Japan has had success, say, in times of electronics, that their technology got an upper hand in the world. But they've also faced setbacks with mobile technology, when their technology didn't get a world
Now, we were talking
attention.
about that in the newsroom today, that among the top 5 or top 10 mobile phone manufacturers, you don't see a Japanese
Yeah,
company
because
now.
they lost out on the initial, their technology didn't become the world technology. So I think that is the game that happens at various points of time. So the game would be which technology takes over, and if hydrogen and hybrid technology is considered to be better than the EV technology, then we would definitely see probably a much more in that field. Otherwise, it will move to this. But I think in both the places, India can have a good chance and opportunity to engage. Because we have, I think, complexly, if you look at it, we have everything going our side, because we have talent, we have, if we can match skills, improve our skill sets,
Certainly.
we are there.
Certainly.
Indeed, and we can see that critical emerging technologies, sustainability, all these areas are areas of convergence. And clearly, it's not only with automobiles, it's also for aeroplanes and things like that we've got to think about in the future if we really want to save the planet. But before we wind up, we'll wrap up the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Japan. We need to thank our guests, Professor Shrabani Roy Chaudhary from JNU and Ambassador Rajshekhar, who joined us as well online. Thank you very much, both of you, for being with us. But Gautam,
There's more to go, and it will be taken forward with Siddharth, my colleague, who will be driving things for a while now, and as Mark and I take your leave, but there's still a lot to look forward to where Tianjin is concerned, and we will keep you updated on all those developments there. For now, a stellar visit has concluded to Japan for Prime Minister Modi's 8th to that country, but perhaps the outcomes speak for themselves in terms of the kind of success that it has been. On that note, we'd like to sign off. Thank you so much for being with us for this special coverage, and do stay with DD India for all the latest.
Partnership is rooted in mutual trust, reflects our national priority, and is shaped by our shared values and beliefs. Together, we carry a common dream of peace, progress, and prosperity of our people and for the world. Together, we will shape Asian century for stability, growth, and prosperity.